Drew, I don't know why Dunaway just assumes you've never lived and you haven't done an interview with Lance getting an IV here. I mean, I don't know why
I'm more interested what's in the IV. What kind of concoction we got in there?
Well, let me ask. Daniel, what do we have in the concoction today? Is it the Carlos or?
It's the Carlos, the hangover bag.
It's a hangover bag. Unfortunately, I didn't really drink last night, but
Can't let that go to waste.
Yeah, but these things will hydrate you. They're pretty awesome. You ought to try it. If you have a big guy weekend where you're heading to Vegas or something, or on the back end of that, I always recommend getting it on the front end, but you will be really hydrated.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. Great to be here.
Yeah, Drew, former Georgia Bulldog, 92-9 the game. What are you laughing at? What, the awkward move on?
That was Drew's, all right, I'm not getting paid for this hyper-life squad. Let's move on.
He asked. I was just explaining.
Drew does this for a living.
Yeah,
I'm not getting paid for this endorsement, so let's move on.
You also hear him on 92-9 the game over in Atlanta. I mean, let's just start with the news yesterday, Drew. You were in the stadium just like us when you saw Carson Beck laying on the field at the half and then not coming back in until he came in with no right arm, basically. You probably already feared the worst.
Yeah, no question. And he had been kind of having some issues with that shoulder and or elbow in the weeks prior. You know, the play call is interesting in and of itself. I taped a podcast last night with Jake Fromm, former Georgia quarterback, and he said he hates the Hail Mary before half specifically. He's like, it's going to end 3 of 4 ways. Either you score a touchdown or it's an interception or it's a sack or I'm going to get hurt. And that's exactly what happened to Carson Beck. It's unfortunate that it happened in that game. But you guys were in the stadium. I mean, when Gunner Stockton came in the third quarter, there was a certain sense of energy. The fan base was alive. It was energetic. I thought I saw the players around him really rally and step up their game. And then probably most importantly, offensive coordinator Mike Bobo really adjusted his play calling to what he knows that Gunner is capable of. And while it seems like, assumingly, Carson Beck's career at Georgia is coming to a close, he is an SEC champion, so that is a huge notch on the belt. And Gunner Stockton having 24 days to prepare, I think, is absolutely enormous. You go back through Kirby Smart's career as his head coaching tenure at Georgia. When he has ample time to prepare for any given opponent, he usually has a pretty good outcome. So they'll sit back and watch that Indiana-Notre Dame game on that Friday night, and they'll be ready to go in the Sugar Bowl with what seems like Gunner Stockton as a starting quarterback.
You know, the Hail Mary Beck injury, probably the most significant play, but the other one, Kirby Smart pulls it out again, 4th and 5 from his own 30 with the fake punt.
Yeah.
Look, it looked like a great call because of how well executed it was, but when you initially saw that snap go back, were you like, oh, damn, here we go again?
You know, it kind of caught me off guard. I had kind of assumed that Kirby had sworn off some of those fake punts, especially in that stadium. As we all know, it happened in 2018 with Justin Fields against Alabama. That moment was critical. Brett Thorson, the punter, he's injured. It seems like he's out for the rest of the season as well. You got to think, guys, you know, I was a holder as well. Georgia was under their 3rd string holder in that game. Carson Beck, starting holder, the punter, Brett Thorson, backup holder, Gunner Stockton, 3rd string holder. And I could tell you, based on my experience, I bet you the last time Gunner Stockton got a rep in practice was probably back during training camp. So they did a really good job of not missing a beat in that regard. But when they called that play, extended the drive, obviously Drew Bobo, the backup center, executed it perfectly. Arian Smith gets north and south. Kirk Benedict, he obviously saw something as to why they drew that fake punt up. It was executed to perfection. And Kirby Smart said after the game, and I give him a lot of credit, he said, look, those are a lot easier calls to make when you know that you're going to be in the college football playoff, win or lose. So a great time to call that fake punt, and it proved to be a difference maker in the game.
I know we'll talk more Georgia with you, but there were times in that game Quinn Ewers made some unbelievable throws, and they didn't get points on a lot of it, and that's credit to Georgia. But then there were times in the second half he looked at just lost. How much of that do you think it was Georgia scheming him up differently in the second half, getting more pressure on him? What happened to Texas's offense in that game, and is that concerning moving forward?
Things happen quick. There's no doubt about it. Georgia's pass rush found its niche really against Texas all season long. And what makes a secondary look great when you can pressure the quarterback with rushing 4 or 5 guys. And that's what Georgia was able to do. Being down there on the field pregame, Quinn Ewers has all the intangibles you could ever want. He's a lot bigger than I expected him to be. His arm is elite. There's no question about it. He had that right ankle wrapped up with, it looked like 2 metal plates were on both sides of his ankles. So I give him a ton of credit for sticking it out, showing some grittiness, playing in that game. But, Georgia was able to bring a lot of pressure, and he's got to make a decision quickly. So he wasn't as effective delivering the ball downfield. But some of those throws that he made and some of the catches that were made to extend drives with some of the explosive plays Texas was getting, he's a first-round quarterback. There's no doubt.
Former Georgia and NFL punter Drew Butler with us at Drew Butler on social media is where you follow him. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. You can also hear him with Steak over on 92.9 The Game in Atlanta during the football season. So I said this in the first segment, and it's parroting a little bit of what Kirby Smart has said, Drew, but tell me if I'm wrong. When you have to replace quarterback, there were years where Georgia's roster was just so elite with depth on depth on depth that it would have been easier to absorb that. That's not this roster, it doesn't appear.
No, it's not. Obviously the running back room for Georgia has dealt with a ton of injuries all season long. The wide receiver room, for a myriad of reasons, has battled plenty of attrition. I think the tight ends have stepped up in a big way. But when you look at Gunner Stockton, he's a guy who's gotten some reps in games. It's not like he has not played. Yes, it's been in some blowout fashions, and he's getting some mop-up duty, but he's certainly gotten plenty of opportunities in practice as well. And with his mobility, Carson Beck, I thought the last 4 games of the season, when he got rid of the turnover issues, Coach Bobo was getting him rolling outside the pocket, moving the pocket for him. I thought Carson saw the field much better in those types of situations, and it opened up the tight ends to be his security blanket. Gunner Stockton, as a young guy, is going to need those tight ends to produce a lot. You saw that in the SEC championship game as well. And as Georgia continues to get healthy, again, I think I said this to you guys on Saturday morning at the SEC Fanfare. Sure, the SEC championship trophy is nice. And yes, at programs like a Georgia and Alabama and Auburn, a Texas, that is a big thing. And it means a lot to those programs. But that bye week and those 24 days off, it was so massive for this Georgia team. You had to play the extra conference championship game. Georgia loses their starting quarterback, loses their starting punter. Trevor Etienne gutted it out. He got back in the game. It is just everybody putting their hand in the pile to make sure that Gunner can have everybody's best at his disposal. So I'm not as worried given the time off and the preparation that they have. If they had to turn around in that first round game, I'd be a little bit more weary, but it seems like Coach Bobo will be able to adjust his play calling to what Gunner's strengths are.
I think we would all agree if Georgia is going to make a deep run, maybe win another championship, it's going to be about the defense. And for whatever reason, I mean, you look at Alabama, you look at Haynes King, you even look at UMass. They gashed this Georgia defense, and I think coming into the Texas game, and look, they played well this past weekend. Coming into the Texas game, I think they were 9th in yards per play. I think they were 9th in rushing defense. I think they were 6th in scoring defense just in the SEC. Why has there been steps backwards with this defense this year?
It's just inconsistency, I think. I mean, let's give Jalen Milroe credit. He's the most athletic quarterback in the country. When he gets going, he's unstoppable. He looked like Mike Vick in that game in Tuscaloosa. It was really incredible. I was there. That was one of the best performances all season long. UMass, I mean, I was at that game as well. Whatever, right? Like they're a much lesser opponent. They were getting up to play that game. It was kind of a tweener game for Georgia in between Tennessee and Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech really showed the blueprint as to how you want to attack Georgia's defense if you want to run the ball. Haynes King is athletic. I don't think you could put him in the same category as Jalen Milroe. I expected Texas to get Arch Manning in some packages that would have emulated what Haynes King was able to do to Georgia's defense. Let's give Georgia's defense some credit, though. They won the point of attack. They were extremely disciplined in their gap assignments, not only on the defensive line, but with the linebackers as well. And they rose to the challenge. I mean, Wisner ran for 186 against Texas A&M, and they did not have the same type of effectiveness in the run game as Georgia's defense. So while that has been a vulnerability, I think Georgia has certainly elevated their play in specific matchups. I would hope, though, instead of the opponent, whether it's Indiana or Notre Dame, trying to emulate what Haynes King did to Georgia's defense, I would hope Georgia themselves give some packages that Haynes King did to Gunner Stockton, let him run the ball. I think that could be highly advantageous for the Dogs.
Yeah, I was surprised Arch's role, too, was as a decoy wicket on one play, basically snapping between his legs. That was crazy. Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. You think compared to Oregon and the other teams, do you think the SEC can bring this home after you've seen the bracket laid out?
From being battle tested, I certainly do agree. I disagree with how the bracket is laid out in the sense that Arizona and Boise State get buys. I disagree in the sense that there is no reseeding. I firmly believe that the top 4 ranked teams should get the bye. The conference champions, if you are outside of the top 4, should be able to host in the first round, and then you reseed after that, just like every other sports league in our country, right? Like if 12 seed whoever wins that first round game, the 1 seed waiting as a conference champ, assumingly, should get the 12 seed coming to them, so on and so forth. I'm shocked as to how we're here now looking at the first ever 12-team playoff and how this is the format that got voted on and approved. It makes no sense to me, guys. With that being said, Georgia got a very favorable draw. Oregon got a horrible draw for being the number 1 overall team and the only remaining undefeated team in the country. As far as first round games go, I like Tennessee against Ohio State. I really do. I kind of like Clemson against Texas, guys. Clemson's playing some really good football. Cade Klubnik can move the ball up and down the field. It'll be interesting to see what type of atmosphere is in Austin, especially with it being just a couple of days before Christmas. But if I had to go outside the box, I would circle Clemson as a team that might be able to make a little bit of a sneaky run in the college football playoffs. And the best game of the opening weekend by far is going to be Tennessee and Ohio State.
So, Drew, not only were you an All-American in 2009, you also won the Ray Guy Award, which recognizes the best punter in all of college football. Did you ever get to meet Ray Guy before he passed away?
Yeah, I met Ray a number of times. A great guy. He was living down in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He would always come up. The college football award show used to be in Orlando. That's when I won it. So when I went down there, I'd always get to hang out with Ray. I was the winner in 2009. I was a finalist in 2010. When it moved up to Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame, I actually had the honor of being the presenter for the award on the ESPN show. I think that was 2018 or 19. So got to hang out with Ray again. And then, he would do his kicking camp and the banquet in Augusta because the award is presented by the Augusta Sports Council every spring. So keep in touch with the Augusta Sports Council a bunch. Ray was a great mentor to me, the best to ever do it, and I'm very thankful for the friendship that we were able to foster.
Very cool. Drew Butler, former Georgia Bulldog, at Drew Butler on social media. 92.9 The Game in Atlanta, also with the subtle flex on the quarter zip. Us golfers noticed. Well done. Well done. These two will roll their eyes that I can look at that and know what course it is.
It's a great course, Boston Golf Club.
That's right.
My buddy Sean McDonough, who is an ESPN play-by-play announcer, he had an incredible game on that Clemson ACC championship. Sean's a member up at Boston Golf Club. I've had the opportunity to go up there and play in his celebrity golf tournament, which I don't know why I get the invite, but I'm so thankful that I do. That's a special spot. So shout out to all my guys at the BGC.
He's my favorite play-by-play announcer.
McDonough?
He's the best, man.
Yeah.
He is the best. He had an unbelievable weekend, and I thought some much-deserved praise after that game-winning field goal call.
Hey, you played 2 years for the Cardinals. I see the helmet back there. The town of Phoenix, now that Kenny Dillingham has got this thing dialed in, I would think NIL and just kids getting recruited, going out in Tempe for a night, that's got to be an easy sell, right?
Yeah, Tempe, Phoenix, Scottsdale, it is a special spot. My wife and I were able to live out there for 4 years. Still have a ton of great friends out there. We had some really good teams in Arizona as well. We made it to the playoffs in 2014, made it to the NFC Championship in 2015. We were 13-3. And then in 2016, it didn't exactly go as we wanted. We were the Super Bowl favorites entering into that season. But as you know, football is a funny game. It is a great spot. If you love the desert, just go out there January to May. And really what happens is from about Halloween to Memorial Day, so the end of October to the end of May, all the snowbirds come down from Minnesota, Chicago, Wisconsin, and then like Western Canada. They all come down. The valley kind of comes alive. Arizona State. It's fun. And we used to have some fun on some Tempe nights, but shout out to Coach Dillingham. I mean, that's one of the hottest teams in the country right now. I was dead wrong in my prediction in the Big 12 title game. I thought Iowa State would be able to slow down Cam Scatterbo. He was unstoppable. I'm just a little worried that their long break might kind of take away some of their momentum, and they're going to get the winner of Clemson, Texas in the Peach Bowl right here in Atlanta, so I'm looking forward to that matchup as well.
Drew, good to see you over the weekend. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate the invite.
All right, buddy. We'll see you. Drew Butler with us, the former Georgia punter and NFL punter on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.